Gyarados back here, and I'm here with my second part of how to play the Lost Worlds combat system. Now, as you can see, I have two books here. I have the Skeleton with Scimitar and Shield, and I've also brought out the Knights of the Dinner Table El Ravager book. Now then, how to play the game is actually pretty simple, but it does take about one playthrough to actually get the mechanics. First off, you open the book and turn it to page 57. Let's also do the same here, page 57. Now 57 is the starting page. Now then, this may seem familiar to some of you. If any of you have actually played Choose Your Own Adventure, it's sort of like the same mechanic, but this is more of an actual game itself rather than just something you do with yourself, unless you're kind of into that. Now then, when you start the game, after you open your page, or before if you want to, you exchange books with your opponent. Why? Well, you notice how the character is on that page? This actually represents what the opponent is seeing. But, of course, you also keep your character card. The character card represents what your character can do. Now then, so the person playing the skeleton would have the skeleton character sheet and El Ravager book, whereas the person playing as El Ravager will have the skeleton book and the El Ravager character sheet. Now then, let's look at the character sheet itself. As you can see, depending on who's publishing it or where you get it, will actually determine what's on, how the character sheet's laid out. As you can see, I have a little thin strip here with the El Ravager book, whereas my skeleton book is actually a lot bigger page. And also some stuff on the back, but it's more tells about how the attacks work. Now then, let's look at El Ravager here, because El Ravager actually has a lot of the stats you're going to need to know. First off, body points. That's your hit points right there. You have to keep in mind all your body points at all times. I would recommend, if you're not really good with memory, at least have a pen and paper to keep your body points listed, because those numbers are going to change a lot. Here we have a luck points. Luck, that actually ties in to the cards here. Now then, let's look at the luck points here. He has 10 luck. Now then, I do believe I have a luck card here, yeah. 4 luck. This card, Achilles Hero, requires 4 luck to use, and you have 10 luck. That basically allows you to equip cards in certain conditions. If you're using the card play, these stats actually are really important. It determines how many cards you can actually equip. There are even some books, like the Ninja I have. I don't really have it on me, but I do have it, where basically it actually comes with gimmick cards, which are basically the special cards for the Ninja. And basically it does explain that you can only use as many cards as you have points, or equip as many. Now then, we look at the next one, 2 tactics. Again, that is basically another type of card that you can equip. So basically he can equip 2 points worth of tactics cards. Now let's look at height. He has a height of 4. Now what does height mean? Well, height actually determines modifiers in combat. Basically, it's a height difference. Let's see. I do believe it does explain. Not on this one, but I do believe the other one probably has it. Escape dungeon. Here we go. Height. Prior to combat, compare the opponent's height to your own character. The taller character adds a +1 to his damage modifier for red maneuvers. I'll talk more about red maneuvers later, but yeah. Basically, if your character's taller, they can do more damage. Now then, let's actually look at the game itself. I've already talked about it enough as it is. Here we go. Now then, let's look at the character sheet and the card. Character card and the character itself. Now let's see. Do only extended range next turn. Now these don't come into play just yet. Just keep in mind. It says tell opponent. That means you're telling your opponent that he can only do this. Only do extended range. Now then, let's look at El Ravager. Only do X range. That also means extended range too next turn. Yeah. So basically they are stuck using extended range. Now extended range is a small area down here with white, gray, and brown. And also down here. Extended range just means you are at an extended range. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Now then, let's take into assumption that El Ravager is using his side swing attack, or side swing hack. We would have to turn to page 64 in the skeleton book. Now let's see. We're at 58. Here's page 64. Now you see here, there's an odd number on the top and an even number on the bottom. The even number is the page number for the matrix. The odd number is a result. I'll get more into that a little later. Now then, what is the skeleton going to do? Let's say he's going to charge, page 50. Now let's turn to page 50 here. Now, you're not going to tell your opponent what you're doing. They have to kind of guess. That's sort of the strategy of the game, is where you have to guess what your opponent's doing and try to predict and basically react. I mean, sometimes you will know what they're going to do depending on their limitations, but I'll again get into that when it comes up. Now, let's see. Let's look at the battle matrix itself, and this is very important. Now, let's see. We are at page 64, and my opponent has gone to page 50. Now then, we look for the number 50 here, which you can see right here. 50 makes me turn to page 7, which is a result page. It looks like I have dazed my opponent with my attack. Now then, let's go back to El Ravager. We went to page 64. So we look up 64, page 53. We go to page 53. Oh, wait. A little skip there. 53. Oh, looks like El Ravager's also been hit. Now then, let's talk about what the effects are. Let's go back to El Ravager here. He used side swing hack. Now then, let's look at the number here, +3. What does that +3 mean? That is your attack modifier. Now then, score 7. That means he's done 7 damage. So basically it's 7 plus 3, that for a total of 10 points of damage. Now then, it also says tell opponent. Tell opponent do no green or yellow next turn. Now let's look at our opponent's sheet. You see, all these attacks are color-coded. Now earlier I said higher characters get +1s on red. Here's a red, red here, another red here. A little kind of hard to see from the camera angle here. We also have orange, which are your strong attacks. Reds are usually high attacks, and blue are usually low attacks. Yellow and green are your defensive attacks. As you can see, we have Wild Swing for yellow, Retrieve Weapon, High, Low for blocking, Jumping Up, Dodging, Ducking, and Jumping Away. Now then, since he's dazed, he can only do these defensive moves. Sometimes you'll be asked that you cannot do a certain color move. Sometimes you will be asked to not be able to do a certain move. Like sometimes you'll say, do no downswing or do no thrust next turn. Now then, let's look at his body points though. He starts off with 7. He did 10 points of damage. This guy has been KO'd. But that's not the end here. Let's look at El Ravager here. He's taking 4 points of damage and another 4 here from the charge. That's a total of 8. Now then, read this. If scoring 8 or more include critical restrictions, that means the character has done critical damage to his opponent. Now then, he can only do green or yellow next turn, but since he's taking critical damage, he also adds this. Critical. Do no skills for the rest of combat. Now let's look here. Let's see. Skills. I believe that would be his special, actually. So basically, he can no longer do his special attacks. Unless I am looking at something different here, because I do realize that there may be skills here, but you can't really see them. It's not really this complicated, but basically you should be able to get the gist of how the game works. And basically, let's also look at his hit points. He has 12 body points. He's done 8. So he's basically got about 4 hit points left. But he KO'd his opponent and has won the combat. Now, there is some times where both opponents have been KO'd. And it's usually whoever has the least amount of hit points lost. Like, for example, if one character has 0 hit points, one character has -3, the person with 0 would actually win. Well, anyway, that's it for now, and we'll go back into more about the collection later on.